So here's the thing. For many years now, long before I started this channel, I've had my toe dipped into the world of pop culture media. For the most part, this just means that I write some articles in exchange for a press pass into Comic-Con. Traveling in these circles has gotten me on a handful of lists that, if we're being perfectly honest, I probably don't deserve to be on, and certainly wouldn't be on through the merits of my channel on its own. I have no illusions about the reach of my channel. I'm just an ordinary newspaper reporter applying his skills to pop culture news for fun. So, generally I'm reluctant to take advantage of this kind of access. In fact, the only time I have was accepting an invitation to the Sonic the Hedgehog 25th anniversary party earlier this year. To be frank, I really just wanted to get into the party. Scoring an interview with Christian Whitehead happened completely by chance, and I attribute it entirely to Sega's press team assuming I was somebody with far greater reach than I actually have. Although considering that interview racked up 12,000 more views than my typical news video, I guess it worked out well for everybody. The point is that occasionally I am offered free stuff, review copies and the like. All I have to do is ask, and I don't because even if I did have the audience for it, I don't do a review show. I've considered it, but if I did, I'd want it to be on a regular basis, and quite frankly, just doing a weekly news show and keeping up with the occasional side project is time-consuming enough. Which brings us to Telltale's Batman. Last week, Telltale Games emailed me a complimentary code for their Batman series, presumably to drum up hype for the release of their 5th and final episode. This was not a review code, merely a complimentary copy of the game given freely for the recipients to do with what they will. The suggestion in the email says that if you already have the game, to give it out to a friend, or a follower, or a fan. I didn't have the game, so I used the code for myself. However, I still feel like I should do something media-related with it. I would do a straight-up Let's Play, as I've done in the past with other Telltale games, but Telltale frowns on those kind of things, and it's perfectly understandable why. It's why I stopped doing them. So that pretty much just leaves me with a review. So, let's recap. I did not ask for this code, I am not being paid to review this game, nor is reviewing the game a stipulation of accepting the code. I am not a professional reviewer, and this is not a professional review. There will be no score at the end. With all that said, let's take a look at Telltale's Batman, and don't worry, all of the footage will be from the first episode, and I'll avoid spoilers as well as I can. Now, if you've played a Telltale game before, you won't find much new here. Most of the game is played out in dialogue trees, with QuickTime events simulating combat and environment exploration mixed in to remind you that you're still playing a video game. The closest Telltale gets to innovation here are the scene reconstruction sequences, which is really just a slightly different take on the put object A into slot B gameplay you find in any adventure game. Likewise, the combat sequences, while nice to watch, are barely worth the effort. There's no real consequence to them, either you do them right or you go back to the checkpoint until you do them right. I thought that maybe throwing fights, particularly as Bruce Wayne, might result in some different story paths, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Of course, the meat of the game is in the story, and that, thankfully, is as top-notch as you'd expect from Telltale. This Batman tale is definitely a new take on the universe, putting us in Bruce Wayne's shoes relatively early into his crime-fighting career. For the most part, these interpretations of the characters are pretty close to what you'd expect. Catwoman is a thief out for herself, Harvey Dent is a crusader for justice with the dark side, so on and so forth. The biggest change for a familiar character is in the Penguin, who, in this telling, is an old friend of Bruce's looking to start a revolution. But is he just a pawn in a bigger game? Well, probably. So far I'm 3 out of 5 episodes in, and while some things have been predictable, other surprises have definitely caught me off guard. Without going into spoilers, let's just say that this game will really deviate from what you might expect. Speaking of which, it wouldn't be a Telltale game without making choices and dealing with the consequences. Having not finished the game yet, much less given it multiple playthroughs, I can't tell you exactly how meaningful your choices are, but come on. This is a Telltale game, not Chrono Trigger. No matter what path you take, you're gonna get to the same place. The fun is in the journey. In this case, that means deciding what kind of Batman you want to be. Your reputation in the city, particularly among the police, can change depending on how enthusiastic you are about your crime fighting. Likewise, Bruce Wayne gets plenty of time for fun, although I have to admit I'm disappointed that you can't play him as a goofy and shallow playboy billionaire. I had thought that maybe making the wrong choices at the wrong time might compromise your identity, but that doesn't seem possible, which is a shame because protecting a secret identity is exactly the kind of scenario that would be great in a game like this. But those are minor quibbles, and I'm hardly the first person to call out a Telltale game for not living up to its full potential. Speaking of minor quibbles, it is a little annoying that you can't select dialogue options with the keyboard. Having to actually click on a choice, particularly when you get such a limited time to react, kinda takes you out of the moment. Which isn't to say the game isn't good, it's just exactly what you would expect it to be. As usual, the voice acting is great, with Troy Baker doing a good job as he graduates from Lego Batman to a more adult version. Baker has a long history with Batman, voicing Lego Batman, Two-Face, the Joker, and 2 different Robins across various games. Veteran voice actors Laura Bailey and Travis Willingham also grace the game as Selena Kyle and Harvey Dent. In the game, they start off as a couple, which is appropriate considering the actors are married in real life. Another leading role comes from Erin Yevett as Vicky Vale. Yevett started her career with Telltale's The Walking Dead and has performed in most of their games since, most notably as Snow White in The Wolf Among Us. Graphically, the game looks great as well, very comic book-like, though not quite as colorful or stylized as The Wolf Among Us was. I love the art style, but graphically there are a few hiccups. The teeth and the mouths aren't quite lined up right, making everybody look like they have thin black braces on when they talk. The PC version of this game has received some criticism for lackluster performance, and I hate to say it doesn't run as smoothly as it probably should. I can't tell how much is the game and how much is my PC, but changing camera angles frequently causes the frame to pause for a second or so. It's not game-breaking, but it is a little annoying. I've run into a handful of other bugs as well so far. Every so often a character will speak without their lips moving, and on one odd incident, what was supposed to be a television report showed nothing but a blank screen. I actually thought this was intentional at first. The character watching the TV was having a bit of a mental breakdown at the time, so I thought they were imagining the broadcast, but nope, whatever was supposed to be on the TV just did not render. But 99% of the time, the game runs just fine. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. If you're familiar with Telltale games, then this is exactly what you would expect it to be. No more, no less. A little more innovation would be nice, particularly when it comes to branching story paths, and I wouldn't be sad to see QuickTime sequences go away completely. They really don't add anything to the game outside of keeping up the illusion that this is actually a game and not just a 10-hour moderately interactive miniseries. Still, if you're a fan of Batman and want to take part in a compelling story, I would recommend this game wholeheartedly, provided your computer can handle it. The full game is out now, and the first episode is free, so at the very least you have nothing to lose by giving it a try. That pretty much wraps it up for this review, so let me know what you thought about it in the comments. If this video was helpful, give me a like, and if this is something you'd like to see me do more of, maybe I'll keep an eye out for more things to take a look at. Until then, have a happy holiday everybody, and I'll see you next time.